Hey everybody, before we get into the Season 3 recap of Never Have I Ever, if you need a Season 2 recap, just hit the tab in the upper right-hand corner. I got you covered. Season 3 kicks off with Davy and Paxton making their school debut. They walk in and they have everybody looking at them because of the shock value of the fact that Davy Vishakumar is dating Paxton Hall Yoshida. It's even got the attention of Lady Whistleboy, who is Eric, starting a TikTok or an Instagram, following around the drama of the school and not being real subtle about it. Let's just say Lady Whistledown, he is not, which if you need a Bridgerton recap, I have that too. But anyway, Davy's confidence is at an all-time high. That is, until she goes to the bathroom. Because she overhears the group of Zoe, Shira, and Carly talking about why exactly she's with Paxton, and the conclusion they come to is she must be having sex with him. So now Davy suddenly feels slut-shamed. And while her friends are excited for her and her newfound popularity, suddenly she really isn't. The other issue is they actually haven't had sex. Every time they've come close, Davy's pulled away, stopped, made Paxton just watch TikToks. And so far he seems cool with it, but it's not cool to be slut-shamed when you're actually not a slut. Currently, though, all of Davy and her friends are in relationships. You've got Anisha, who's with Ben. You've got Fabiola, she's with Eve. And even Eleanor has seemingly found somebody, and that somebody is Trent. But their relationship is weird because they haven't kissed yet, and there's questions of if it's a relationship at all. Although Trent does go out of his way to try to impress Eleanor. But just as they think they're all kind of in relationships, Eve comes up and tells Fabiola that she's moving to Korea the next day. Her mom is opening up a bar studio. Fabiola and Eve are going to try to do the long distance thing, but it's pretty depressing for Fab. The next day, Davy goes and has her meeting with Dr. Ryan, and it was supposed to be a celebratory talk about how she had a new boyfriend. But suddenly, after this rumor going around, she doesn't really feel like celebrating at all. Dr. Ryan's message to her is, don't let somebody else define you. When you do that, you give them your power. The message here is pretty clear, just ignore it. But Davy hears, confront it. So when she goes to school, she walks up to him and says, hey, I heard what you said about me. Just to let you know, I'm not a slut. He actually just likes me for my awesome personality. I mean, we haven't even had sex yet. And that revelation right there stops the girls dead in their tracks. Because they tell Davy, he's not going to see you very long if you haven't had sex with him. He's not going to be satisfied by touching boobs and watching TikToks, which is basically all they've done so far. So now Davy's worried that she has to have sex with Paxton or else she's going to lose him. So when Paxton asks her out to a fancy dinner at California Pizza Kitchen, she figures that's going to be her opportunity to finally lose her virginity and have sex with Paxton. She heads to class and excitedly tells Eleanor and Fabiola, but Fabiola is asleep. The whole long-distance thing with Eve hasn't really worked out too well. It's got Fab burning the candle at both ends, and she is struggling to stay awake. But they wake Fab up, tell her the news, and then Mr. Shapiro comes in to actually start the history class. And the history class is going to be all about the Vietnam War. He's decked all out in garb, and he wants the kids to listen to the Forrest Gump soundtrack. After the class, though, Ben walks up to Mr. Shapiro and asks for more work. He wants extra credit. And Mr. Shapiro looks at him and says, Ben, you already have an A. I literally can't go higher than what I've already given you. But to Ben, he needs to go higher because he wants to go to a really good school. In the process, he ends up insulting Mr. Shapiro about where he went and thinking that Mr. Shapiro is nuts because he won't just give in. He starts venting to Anissa about it, but Anissa takes Mr. Shapiro's side. And he's kind of taken aback because she doesn't see it the way he does. But as everybody was in school dealing with that drama, Kamala had to go apologize. First of all, she's been getting iced out by her grandmother for what she did to Prashant. And after talking with Davy's mom, she decided that maybe she should try to go win Prashant back. She was just terrified that he was going to propose. But when she tells him this, he says, I was going to propose. He kind of shakes his head and says, you don't want me back. I mean, I'm clearly a catch, but I'm also ready for marriage. I want to take that next step. And I thought you did too. And Kamala cuts him off and says, I do. I mean, theoretically. Like, I didn't like the advice you gave me about my work, and that probably means that you won't support me professionally. But the more she talks, the more Prashant feels like they never really had a connection in the first place. And she comes to the conclusion that it's not just him. She might not want to marry anybody, but for Prashant, that's not acceptable. So Kamala ends up getting the door closed in her face. When she gets home later that day, she catches Davy going through her underwear drawer because Davy had a conversation with her girlfriends, and she's freaking out a little bit. They gave her some advice on what to wear, what to do, But it was Fabiola who gave her the best advice. If you're not ready, don't do it. Don't worry about what those girls said. They don't know you and they don't know your relationship. But Davy's feeling the pressure. In order to steam it up a little bit, she figured that she'd go raid Kamala's underwear drawer and not her own, because she doesn't really have stuff for that. But Kamala isn't going to let her little cousin just borrow her underwear. She wants to have a serious conversation about the decision she's making. Losing your virginity isn't a small thing. Kamala used the example of Prashant. She's not going to marry him because she's not ready. And if Davy isn't ready to have sex, she shouldn't. But Davy also isn't ready to be dumped. So when she goes to California Pizza Kitchen that night, she loads up on food, which is a go-to excuse for her. Oh, I had a big meal. That doesn't stop them from going inside to Paxton's, getting a little over-the-bra action. Things are steaming up a bit. But when it comes time to actually have sex, Paxton doesn't, because Davy looks like she's about to be in extreme pain. Like me, the first time I gave blood. There's a lot of fear in that face. That's when Davy admits to him that she's not ready to have sex. And to her surprise, Paxton says, that's fine. I can go slow. I only want to do what you're comfortable with. So this is a big relief for Davy, and when she gets to class the next day, all of her girlfriends want to know how was it, but she's excited to tell them, I didn't do it. Mr. Shapiro then walks in, starts handing out the latest graded assignment, and most of the kids got the grades they expected, except Fabiola. She got an 82. This is a first for her. She's never gotten below an A. And what's really disheartening is she got the same score as Trent. She realizes that all those late nights talking to Eve on the phone is doing her real damage in school. She texts Eve right then and there and says, I think we need to talk. And a prime example of what Fabiola's up against, Eve responds with, sure, how's 2:30 your time? So while she doesn't want to, Fabiola's going to have to end that relationship. But when one relationship ends, another becomes official. After class, Trent comes out and tells Eleanor, I like you. And to Eleanor, that wasn't really clear beforehand, but it is now. He then leans in and makes it super clear when he kisses her. So they're official. Davy gets home that night, and as she's eating dinner, she covertly tells Kamala that she did not have sex with Paxton, which Kamala's a little relieved about. Kamala then tells the table that she did in fact talk to Prashant, but they came to the conclusion that it's not going to work out. She's not getting married to him. Man, that does not sit well with the grandmother. For Davy, that's not necessarily a bad thing. For the first time, she's the golden grandchild. But then her phone goes off, and she gets a DM from a random person that says, you better watch out, Davy. Paxton Hall Yoshida is not who you think he is. And now she's nervous for a whole other reason. Thank you so much for checking out this recap. Please consider subscribing to the channel and subscribing to my Patreon. Hit thumbs up if you liked it. Smash that thumbs down button if you thought it sucked. If you left a comment, I don't get back to you. I usually don't check the comments unless they're like a super comment. Also, if you don't see the next video up on the end screen, not to worry, it'll be up in a day or two.